The quantum sensors aboard the Stellar Observatory Station, Hawking detected them first. Three massive vessels emerging from what appeared to be tears in the fabric of space itself. As humanity's most advanced deep space monitoring facility, the Hawking had witnessed its share of astronomical phenomena. But nothing like this. The ships were perfectly geometric, their surfaces adorned with patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal under the harsh light of Earth's sun. Dr. Sarah Chen, the station's lead quantum physicist, knew immediately that this was what they had been waiting for and dreading. Since humanity had achieved their breakthrough in quantum manipulation technology 2 years ago, the ability to alter the fundamental forces of reality itself had propelled human civilization forward by centuries. But it had also done something else. It had announced their presence to the galaxy at large. Within hours, the vessels had positioned themselves in a perfect equilateral triangle formation around Earth's orbit. No weapons were visible on their hulls, but the sheer scale of the ships, each roughly the size of Earth's moon, made such displays unnecessary. Their message, when it came, was transmitted simultaneously to every communications device on Earth, bypassing all encryption and security measures as if they didn't exist. "We are the Meridian Collective," the message began, its translation perfect in every human language. "We have guided the development of countless species across 12 galaxies for over 1 million of your years. We are the custodians of order, the shepherds of progress, and the arbiters of power. Your species has achieved what many thought impossible: the manipulation of quantum fields without the proper evolutionary developments. This represents both an opportunity and a threat." The message continued, its tone shifting from educational to authoritative. "Your quantum manipulation technology must be surrendered to the collective immediately. Your research facilities will be dismantled. Your scientists will be relocated to collective facilities for proper oversight and guidance. This is not a request. You have 14 solar days to comply." In the ensuing hours, Earth's unified government scrambled to respond. Emergency sessions were called, military leaders gathered, and scientists like Dr. Chen were summoned to provide insights. The collective's demands were clear, but their implications were staggering. Humanity's quantum manipulation technology had revolutionized everything from energy production to medical treatment. It had ended scarcity, was beginning to heal Earth's environmental wounds, and had given humanity its first real chance at becoming a true spacefaring civilization. Admiral James Okonjo, head of Earth's Defense Force, stood before the Emergency Council, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays showing the collective's ships. "We're looking at a technological gap of thousands, perhaps millions of years," he stated grimly. "Their ships utilized principles of physics we've barely begun to theorize about. A direct confrontation would be suicide." But Dr. Chen, who had been quietly analyzing the collective's message, noticed something others had missed. "They're afraid," she interrupted, causing all heads to turn. "Look at the urgency in their demand. Look at how quickly they responded to our quantum breakthrough. They're not here to guide us. They're here to contain us." She pulled up her research data, showing the quantum field fluctuations her team had recorded. The collected ships. They're using a crude, brute force approach to spatial manipulation. It's like comparing a sledgehammer to a scalpel. Our technology is different, more precise, more elegant. They don't want to guide us. They want to stop us before we surpass them. The revelation changed the tenor of the discussion entirely. Humanity had spent its existence looking up at the stars, imagining vastly superior civilizations. But what if advancement didn't always follow a linear path? What if humanity's desperate circumstances, their resource wars, their environmental disasters, their constant struggle for survival, had forced them to innovate in ways the collective had never considered? As the council debated, Dr. Chen worked with military strategists to analyze the collective's ships. Their size, while intimidating, suggested inefficiency. Their perfect formation hinted at rigid tactical thinking. And their ultimatum, their need to demand immediate surrender, revealed something crucial. They weren't as confident in their superiority as they wanted humanity to believe. The Council's decision, when it came, was not what the collective expected. Instead of compliance, Earth sent back a simple message. We require additional time to prepare our research facilities for transfer. Request extension of deadline by 30 solar days. But even as this message was transmitted, a very different preparation was underway. In hidden facilities across the globe, quantum engineers began working on something unprecedented. If the collective wanted humanity's quantum technology, they would get it, just not in the way they anticipated. The 14-day deadline approached, and the collected ships maintained their perfect triangle formation, their liquid metal surfaces reflecting Earth's sun. They were waiting for submission, for the natural order to be restored. They had no way of knowing that humanity was about to rewrite that order entirely. The request for a 30-day extension was, surprisingly, granted. The Meridian Collective's response carried a note of smug satisfaction, as if humanity's apparent stalling tactic only confirmed their expectations of a primitive species buying time before the inevitable. They didn't realize they had just given humanity exactly what it needed: time and the element of surprise. In the depths of Europa's subterranean ocean, beneath kilometers of ice, the true nature of humanity's preparation was taking shape. Operation Starcaster, as it was designated, represented the most ambitious engineering project in human history. Dr. Chen's team had made a breakthrough that even she hadn't dared to hope for. They had found a way to inverse quantum fields, essentially turning the collective's own spatial manipulation against them. The Europa facility hummed with activity as engineers and scientists worked in shifts around the clock. They weren't building traditional warships. Those would have been detected immediately. Instead, they were creating something the collective would never expect: quantum field generators small enough to fit in a person's palm, but powerful enough to disrupt the fabric of space-time itself. Admiral Okonjo stood at the observation deck, watching as teams tested the devices in the facility's massive underwater testing chamber. The water itself seemed to ripple and fold as the generators created localized pockets of altered space-time. "How many can we produce in the time we have left?" he asked. Dr. Chen consulted her datapad. "With the automated fabrication systems running at maximum capacity, we can produce enough to equip every satellite in Earth's orbit, plus our stealth corvettes. The real question is whether the quantum AI can handle the coordination required." The quantum AI she referred to as ARIA, Advanced Recursive Intelligence Array, humanity's first true artificial intelligence, born from the same quantum breakthrough that had attracted the collective's attention. Unlike traditional AIs, ARIA existed in a state of quantum superposition, able to process and react to events faster than the speed of light itself. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, humanity maintained an elaborate charade. Visible preparations were made to shut down quantum research facilities. Scientists publicly packed up their laboratories. Government announcements spoke of cooperation and peaceful transition. The collected ships maintained their vigilant watch, their sensors detecting exactly what humanity wanted them to detect. But in secret locations across the solar system, a different story was unfolding. The asteroid belt became home to hidden shipyards, where small, agile vessels were being retrofitted with quantum generators. Mars's defunct mining colonies were transformed into ammunition factories, producing specialized quantum-tipped projectiles designed to penetrate the collective's spatial defenses. 20 days into the extension, the first test of humanity's new defensive network was conducted in the Kuiper Belt, far from the collective's prying eyes. A decommissioned freighter, equipped with shields similar to those used by the collected ships, served as the target. When the quantum generators activated, the results exceeded even Dr. Chen's optimistic predictions. The freighter's shields didn't just fail. They inverted, creating a feedback loop that would have torn the ship apart if the test hadn't been quickly terminated. "It's not just about matching their technology," Dr. Chen explained to the military leadership as they reviewed the test data. "It's about understanding it better than they do." They've relied on brute force for so long that they've missed the subtleties of quantum manipulation. Their shields are powerful, yes, but predictable. Rigid. We're going to show them what true innovation looks like. Admiral Okonjo, however, saw beyond the technical victory. This isn't just about defending Earth anymore, he said, his voice thoughtful. We're about to change the balance of power in the galaxy. The question is, are we ready for what comes after? The answer to that question began taking shape in the form of Operation Starcaster's second phase. While the defensive preparations continued, diplomatic channels were quietly opened with other species who had fallen under the collective's control. Many had already noticed humanity's apparent submission and dismissed them as yet another conquered race. This was exactly what humanity wanted them to think. Through encrypted quantum communications that piggybacked on the collective's own network, Earth's diplomats made contact with resistance movements and dissatisfied member species. They didn't promise military support or dramatic revolution. Instead, they offered something more valuable: hope, in the form of proof that the collective's technological superiority wasn't absolute. As the 30-day deadline approached its end, humanity's preparation entered its final phase. Ari's quantum processors were synchronized across the solar system, ready to coordinate a defense network unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The stealth corvettes, now dubbed quantum strikers, were positioned in strategic locations, hidden by technology that bent light and space around them. Dr. Chen stood in the Europa facility's main control room, watching as the final systems came online. The quantum field generators, now fully integrated into Earth's defensive grid, pulsed with potential energy. On her datapad, reports streamed in from hidden installations across the solar system. All systems operational, all personnel ready, all ships in position. The collective had given humanity 30 days to prepare for submission. Instead, humanity had used that time to prepare for something unprecedented. A revolution not just in warfare, but in the very nature of galactic power. As the deadline approached, Dr. Chen sent a final encrypted message to all Operation Starcaster installations. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting to prove that true advancement comes not from dominance, but from innovation born of necessity. The stage was set. Humanity's response to the collective's ultimatum would soon shake the foundations of galactic order itself. When the 30-day extension expired, the Meridian Collective's ships began their approach toward Earth's atmosphere, their massive forms casting long shadows across the planet below. Their final message was brief and imperious. Your time has ended. Prepare for immediate technological transfer and integration. Earth's response came not in words, but in action. As the collective ships crossed the threshold of the quantum defense grid, Ari activated the network with precision that only a quantum eye could achieve. In an instant, thousands of seemingly dormant satellites and orbital platforms hummed to life, each one equipped with Dr. Chen's inverse quantum field generators. The effect was immediate and devastating. The collective ship's supposedly impenetrable shields began to fluctuate and distort as conflicting quantum fields intersected and collided. Their perfect formation, maintained for so long, began to waver. For the first time in possibly thousands of years, the Meridian Collective faced an enemy that could not only match their technology, but fundamentally undermine it. From hidden positions across the solar system, humanity's quantum striker fleet emerged from their spatial camouflage. These ships, small enough to have been dismissed as insignificant by the collective standards, demonstrated the true power of humanity's innovation. They moved in ways that defied conventional physics, using localized quantum fields to bend space around them, effectively creating their own laws of motion. Admiral Okonjo, commanding from the stealth carrier Prometheus in the asteroid belt, watched as the first phase of humanity's defense unfolded. "Begin Operation Thunderbolt," he ordered, his voice calm despite the historic magnitude of the moment. The quantum strikers, coordinated by Ari's faster-than-light processing, executed maneuvers that would have been impossible under normal space-time conditions. The collective's response was predictable. They attempted to bring their massive energy weapons to bear, the same weapons that had subjugated countless civilizations before. But humanity had anticipated this. The quantum-tipped projectiles, launched from the converted Mars factories, didn't try to penetrate the collective's shields directly. Instead, they created localized inversions in the quantum field, causing the collective's own weapon energy to reflect back upon itself. Dr. Chen, monitoring the battle from Europa, watched as her theories were proven correct in spectacular fashion. Their technology is powerful, she communicated to Admiral Okonjo, but it's inflexible. They never expected anyone to understand quantum manipulation well enough to counter it. They'd been relying on the same tactics for too long. The battle that unfolded in Earth's orbit was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The collected ships, each one larger than Earth's moon, found themselves unable to effectively combat the swarm of human vessels that seemed to ignore the very laws of physics. The quantum strikers would appear at one point, fire their disrupting weapons, and vanish into folded space before reappearing elsewhere. Aria's quantum processing capabilities proved invaluable, coordinating the entire human fleet with impossible precision. The AI could predict the collective's responses microseconds before they occurred, allowing the human ships to be exactly where they needed to be, when they needed to be there. It was a dance of technology and timing that demonstrated the true potential of human innovation. But the collective was not so easily defeated. Despite their initial confusion, they began to adapt, launching waves of autonomous combat drones that filled the space around their ships. These drones, while also affected by the quantum disruption, presented a new challenge through sheer numbers. The battle evolved into a complex three-dimensional chess game, with both sides trying to outmaneuver the other in increasingly creative ways. From her station in Europa, Dr. Chen noticed something unexpected in the sensor readings. The collected ships, she reported to Admiral Okonjo, they're trying to modify their shield frequencies to match our quantum disruption. They're learning, adapting. But there's something else. She paused, analyzing the data more closely. Their shield modifications are causing fluctuations in their spatial integrity. They're becoming unstable. The implications were clear. The collective's attempts to counter humanity's quantum technology were putting their own ships at risk. Their rigid, brute force approach to quantum manipulation was proving to be their undoing. As they tried to match humanity's more precise and elegant solutions, they were pushing their own technology beyond its safe operational parameters. Admiral Okonjo recognized the opportunity this presented. All ships, execute pattern Delta, he commanded. The quantum strikers immediately shifted their tactics, no longer directly attacking the collected ships, but instead forcing them to continuously adjust their shields through carefully calculated quantum field projections. The strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. By forcing the collective ships to constantly adapt, humanity was essentially making them fight themselves. Each shield modification increased the instability. Each attempted countermeasure brought them closer to catastrophic failure. In the midst of the chaos, something unprecedented occurred. From one of the collective's smaller support vessels, a transmission was received on a heavily encrypted channel. The message was brief but clear. We have watched. We have learned. We wish to defect. It seemed that not all members of the collective were united in their belief of absolute authority. Some had seen humanity's innovative approach to quantum manipulation and recognized it as the future. The balance of power wasn't just shifting, it was being fundamentally reimagined. As the battle entered its sixth hour, the outcome was becoming clear. The collective's massive ships, their shields now dangerously unstable, began to retreat. Their perfect formation was in shambles, their aura of invincibility shattered. Humanity had not just survived, they had forced the galaxy's most powerful civilization to withdraw. But Dr. Chen and Admiral Okonjo knew this was only the beginning. The collective would return, possibly with new tactics and technologies. More importantly, their retreat would send shockwaves through the galaxy. The message was clear. Humanity was not just another species to be subjugated. They were a force that could stand against the most powerful entities in the galaxy, armed with innovation, adaptability, and the unshakable determination to remain free. News of humanity's successful defense against the Meridian Collective spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. The quantum communications network that humanity had piggybacked onto the Collective's own systems ensured that every subjugated species witnessed the impossible. The mighty Collective forced into retreat by a civilization they had dismissed as primitive. In the weeks following the battle, the defecting Collective vessel, a science ship called the Astral Seeker, proved invaluable. Its crew, led by Chief Researcher Zix-427, represented a faction within the Collective that had long questioned the wisdom of suppressing technological innovation among other species. They'd brought with them not just technical knowledge, but a deep understanding of the Collective's political structure and weaknesses. The Collective's power, Zix-427 explained to Earth's Leadership Council, has always been built on the assumption of technological superiority. You haven't just damaged their military capabilities, you've shattered the foundation of their authority. The researcher's multifaceted eyes flickered with something akin to excitement. Other species are beginning to question everything they've been told about the natural order of the galaxy. Dr. Chen and her team worked closely with the Astral Seeker scientists, combining their different approaches to quantum manipulation. The synthesis of ideas led to breakthroughs that neither side could have achieved alone. Humanity's intuitive, innovative approach complemented the Collective scientists' deep theoretical knowledge, creating something entirely new. Admiral Okonjo, meanwhile, focused on transforming these innovations into practical advantages. The Quantum Striker fleet was expanded and improved, incorporating insights gained from the battle. ARIA's capabilities were enhanced through collaboration with the Astral Seeker's quantum computing systems, creating an unprecedented hybrid of human and collective technology. But the most significant changes were happening far from Earth. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under the Collective's control for millennia began to stir. The Silurians, masters of biotechnology, quietly began adapting humanity's quantum field principles to their organic ships. The Vortins, long forced to suppress their natural gift for dimensional engineering, started incorporating human innovations into their ancient technologies. The Collective's response was predictably harsh. They increased their military presence in contested systems, doubled down on technological restrictions, and publicly dismissed humanity's victory as a fluke, an outcome of unusual circumstances that could never be repeated. But their actions betrayed their words. Their ships no longer traveled alone, but in large battle groups. Their once confident declarations were tinged with a new emotion: fear. In a hidden space station orbiting a neutron star, representatives from 24 species gathered in secret. Human diplomats shared not just technology, but something more valuable: a vision of a galaxy where advancement wasn't controlled by a single authority, where different approaches to science and technology could coexist and complement each other. The Collective's rigid hierarchy and standardized technology had created weaknesses that these species were now learning to exploit. The Quantum Striker's success had demonstrated that smaller, more agile forces could effectively combat the Collective's massive ships when armed with the right technology. This lesson wasn't lost on the other species, many of whom had their own unique advantages that had been suppressed for generations. Dr. Chen, presenting to the gathered representatives, emphasized this point. The Collective's greatest mistake was assuming that there was only one path to technological advancement. They saw their way as the only way, and in doing so, they blinded themselves to countless possibilities. Each of your species has a unique perspective, a different way of understanding and manipulating the universe. Together, we can create something far greater than the sum of its parts. The rebellion that followed was unlike anything the Collective had faced in its long history. It wasn't just a military uprising. It was a renaissance of innovation. Each liberated system brought new technologies, new ideas, and new ways of challenging the collective's authority. The Silarans' bioquantum ships proved nearly impossible to detect with conventional sensors. The Vortin's dimensional gates allowed resistance forces to strike and vanish before the collective could respond. Aria's quantum network expanded, linking resistance cells across the galaxy. The AI's ability to coordinate actions faster than light became the backbone of the rebellion, allowing disparate forces to act with unprecedented synchronization. The collective found itself fighting not just humanity, but an ever-growing alliance of species, each contributing their unique strengths to the cause. As the rebellion gained momentum, something unexpected began to happen within the collective itself. More ships like the Astral Seeker began to break away, their crews inspired by the possibility of a different way of life. The collective's rigid hierarchy, once a source of strength, became a weakness as lower-ranking members began to question orders and share information with the resistance. Admiral Okonjo, reviewing reports from across the galaxy, realized that the conflict had evolved far beyond Earth's initial defensive action. "We're not just fighting for our independence anymore," he told the Council. "We're helping to fundamentally reshape the galaxy's power structure. The question is, are we ready for the responsibility that comes with that?" The answer came in the form of a new initiative. Earth began establishing research centers where scientists from different species could work together, sharing knowledge and developing new technologies that combined their various approaches. These centers became symbols of a new way forward, one based on cooperation and innovation rather than control and suppression. The collective's grip on power was weakening, system by system, innovation by innovation. But everyone knew that this only made them more dangerous. The final confrontation was inevitable. The collective would never accept the emergence of a new order that challenged everything they had built over millions of years. As reports came in of massive fleet movements and unprecedented military buildups in collective space, it became clear that they were preparing for one final desperate attempt to restore their dominion over the galaxy. The collective's final offensive began not with a bang, but with silence. Across the galaxy, their quantum communication networks suddenly went dark. The massive fleet that had been gathering at their core systems vanished from all sensors. Even ARIA, with its vast quantum processing power, could detect no trace of their movements. Dr. Chen, working with Zix 427 in the Europa facility, was the first to understand what was happening. "They're attempting to recreate our quantum field manipulation on a massive scale," she explained to the gathered Alliance leadership. "They're trying to move their entire fleet through folded space, planning to emerge simultaneously across all rebel systems." It was a desperate gambit, one that showed just how far the collective was willing to go. They had taken humanity's precise, calculated approach to quantum manipulation and turned it into a blunt instrument of unprecedented scale. The power requirements alone would be astronomical, and the risks of catastrophic failure were high. But humanity and their allies had anticipated something like this. The research centers established across the galaxy have been working on a project that combined the unique insights of a dozen different species. The Silarans' biological quantum interfaces, the Vortin's dimensional engineering, humanity's innovative approach to field manipulation, all merged into something entirely new. Admiral Okonjo gave the order that activated Operation Starleaf. Across rebel-held space, specially designed quantum resonators came online. These devices, small enough to be overlooked by conventional scans, began emitting precisely calibrated quantum fields that interacted with the very fabric of spacetime. They weren't meant to attack the collective fleet directly. Instead, they turned space itself into an early warning system. Aria's quantum processors, now integrated with artificial intelligences from other species, detected the first distortions within hours. The collective fleet was indeed moving through folded space, but their approach wasn't as undetectable as they had hoped. The massive power they were using created ripples in the quantum field, ripples that the resonators could detect. "They'll emerge in exactly 43 minutes, HFY predicted, its hybrid consciousness processing data faster than any organic mind could comprehend. Their fleet is larger than anything we anticipated. At least 10,000 capital ships, with supporting vessels numbering in the hundreds of thousands. But numbers weren't everything, as humanity had proved in their first encounter. The Allied forces were ready with a strategy that played to their strengths. Instead of meeting the collective's massive fleet head-on, they prepared a response that demonstrated just how much the galaxy had changed. When the collective fleet emerged from folded space, they found themselves not facing an opposing armada, but something far more sophisticated. The quantum resonators, which had been tracking their approach, suddenly shifted frequency. The space around the collective ships began to change in subtle but critical ways. They're trying to brute force their way through quantum fields that took us years to understand, Dr. Chen observed as data streamed in from across the battlefield. Their ships are powerful enough to do it, but they don't realize what that power is doing to spacetime itself. The first signs of the trap became apparent as collective ships began to experience difficulties with their spatial positioning. Their attempt to manipulate quantum fields on such a massive scale had made them vulnerable to the more precise manipulations of the Allied forces. Ships that should have emerged in perfect formation found themselves scattered across space, their carefully planned assault turning into chaos. But the truly decisive moment came from an unexpected source. The remaining progressive elements within the collective, inspired by the example set by the Astral Seeker, chose this moment to act. Key ships across the collective fleet suddenly broke formation, their crews refusing to participate in what they now saw as a futile attempt to preserve an outdated order. The battle that followed wasn't the straightforward conflict the collective had planned. Instead, it became a complex dance of quantum fields and spatial distortions. Allied forces, coordinated by HFY and its hybrid network, used their superior understanding of quantum mechanics to systematically dismantle the collective's offensive capabilities. Humanity's quantum strikers, now joined by ships from a dozen other species, demonstrated the power of their combined innovations. Silaran bioships phased through collective defenses, their organic quantum fields adapting in ways mechanical systems couldn't match. Vortian dimensional engineers opened precisely calculated microgates that redirected the collective's own weapon fire back at them. The collective's leadership, faced with the failure of their grand offensive and growing dissent within their own ranks, finally recognized the inevitability of change. Their surrender, when it came, was not to any single species or alliance, but to the new reality they had fought so hard to prevent. In the aftermath, as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to establish a new order, Dr. Chen stood with Admiral Okonjo in the Yoruba facility where their journey had begun. "We never wanted to replace the collective's authority with our own," she reflected. "We just wanted to prove that there was another way." The new galactic concordat that emerged was fundamentally different from the collective's rigid hierarchy. It was built on principles of technological exchange and cooperative development, recognizing that true progress comes not from control, but from the free flow of ideas and innovation. Research centers across the galaxy became hubs of unprecedented collaboration. Species that had been forbidden from developing their natural talents for millennia were finally free to explore their potential. The quantum network that had helped coordinate the rebellion evolved into a galaxy-wide platform for sharing knowledge and resources. HFY and its hybrid counterparts became the guardians of this new order, not through force, but through their ability to facilitate communication and cooperation across vast distances. They served as living proof that different approaches to technology and consciousness could coexist and complement each other. Earth, which had started this revolution by refusing to submit to the collective's demands, found itself at the heart of a new galactic civilization. Not as rulers or conquerors, but as the species that had proved that innovation, adaptability, and cooperation were more powerful than any fleet or weapon. As the last light of the battle faded from Earth's skies, Dr. Chen's original observation proved prophetic. The collective had feared humanity's quantum technology, not because it was a threat, but because it represented a fundamental truth they had forgotten. True power lies not in controlling progress, but in unleashing the creative potential of all species to shape their own destiny.